So we are now in the final stage of the rise of AI here on the meta stage, Zielgerade, what you're saying. So we will have one more panel, and this is moderated by Nikolaus Roettger. He's the founder and partner of FutureStory, advertising CEO, CMOs, and leadership teams in strategy. And please welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to have you here, and we continue the discussion we just had about good news from Germany. Now we want to talk about AI and society and how it can have a positive impact. Please give a warm hand for Kenza, Abbou, Elisabeth, and Dr. Annika von Mutius. Herzlich willkommen. How great to have you on stage. Hey, Kenza. Elisabeth, hi, welcome. Hello, Annika. Nice to have you here. So, it's great to have you here.
Yeah.
Let me introduce them to you. So, next to me is Elisabeth. Hi. It's
Hi.
Great to have you here. You're a partner at Deloitte. You're focusing on AI and data. And before joining consulting, you had your own AI company. So you have the consulting, the corporate, and the entrepreneurial view on our topic today. Welcome, Elisabeth.
Thank you.
Next to we have Kenza. It's great to have you here. You currently work as CTO and board member at FIEGE. We already heard in the last panel that you're an expert for SMEs and KMUs, and can tell us a little bit about this. You have written several books on AI. The last one, I think, was on emotional AI. So we will figure out what this is. It's great to have you here. Welcome, Kenza.
Thank you.
And we have Dr. Annika von Mutius with us. Hello, Annika. It's great to see you again. We met at several conferences during the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You are a board member at KI Bundesverband, at the German AI Association, and co-founder and co-CEO of Empion, an HR tech startup. What do you exactly do? I will ask you in a minute. Because I thought when you have been at the last panel about good news from Germany, we discussed a lot about companies and corporates. So I thought we'd get more on this topic on a more maybe personal level and talk about a little bit how you all not only started with AI, but what you now do with the AI. And then in the second step, how we can use this to persuade others in our society and to talk with others that are not in our AI bubble at the moment, to get the story out why AI is something good, something we can be maybe optimistic about. So Annika, how did you start with AI and what is your company doing?
So I originally started working with AI systems back in, I think, 2016 or something, when I finished my master's and started my PhD back then in mathematics. And mathematics is very abstract in a way, which I realized very quickly. And then I was capable of doing a job in Silicon Valley, which I did before I came here to Berlin to found my own company. And there we were capable of applying the very mathematical models with data. So back then, in a very sexy way, predictive systems. And I very much liked that. I very much enjoyed that. And basically, from all those research and all that modeling, we made our research transfer now to our company today that I founded in Europe, here in Berlin, which was actually the other way around that most people do, going from Germany away to the US, and I did it the other way around. So, but I'm pretty happy here, and we are working.
We are as well.
Yeah,
we are as well.
So what we do here now to answer
your just one question, why did you choose this way?
Yeah, that's also what people ask me very often. Honestly, sometimes I also don't know, but most of the time I lived in San Francisco for over 4 years in total, and I loved the enthusiasm and the excitement for innovation and also for high risk capital, so venture capital invested into those asset classes. But I think that we have an outstanding value system here in Europe. I think we have a wonderful culture, we have wonderful people, wonderful smart people. So apparently over time I felt a little bit annoyed about the, let's say, capitalism that is lived in the US. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think I'm a capitalist by heart, but I still think there's more to it than just the money, and it was all about the money. So I kind of like living here in Europe. Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why you work with values.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, that was
That's what your company is doing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. So what we do is we develop a recruiting system that quantifies values, company culture, personality traits, and it's all about making maximum individualized job search available to the mass market, which means we bring the right people to the right companies in order to make people as happy as possible, because we have such an interesting system, or such an interesting labor market here in Germany. We have more people in employment over the past years, but less economic output, which means that people are working less, or they are not working good enough, which then infers that the wrong people are at the wrong positions, and that's a huge challenge to solve. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I come back to this later, but I learned you started with AI because of academics and your first job. How did you start?
Similar experience, actually.
Yeah?
So at university, I studied electronics, and I remember very well, still in my first semester, I had a class on neural networks, and our teacher, or professor, used an example of cancer diagnosis to make it attractive that with neural networks you can diagnose cancer. And I was totally, oh wow, is this possible? I never thought that mathematics could be so useful. And I love maths as well. I'm a math nerd. And that got me really excited. So I'm talking about the year 2000. So I picked all the machine learning, neural networks, fuzzy logic, all those subjects. And we didn't really use the term AI back then. I wrote my thesis about clustering algorithms. That was in 2003. Anyhow, so that was my first touch point back then. And that was the interesting part as well. After I finished my bachelor degree, I was applying for a master degree, and it was either in AI, and that would have been totally academia path, or do project management and then go in the industry. And I was discussing with my professor back then, what should I do? And he said, okay, if you pick AI, you should know you're going to academia, because companies, the industry is not using this technology. It's still too early. And because of some other private reasons, I moved to Berlin and did my master's in industrial, not industrial, Wirtschaftsingenieurwesen, something only that exists in Germany. Business engineering. So, and this is where I am now.
And what is your daily work with AI nowadays?
Well, as a CTO, obviously, I have a very, very broad responsibility. So I also have the IT and the group IT. So I need to take care of our infrastructure. IT, tech, data, AI, all of this is my team, and as well as data privacy and information security. And I remember in my early days, I always said, I don't want to be CIO. So I managed to become a CTO. What I didn't think of is that a CIO would report to me, which means I'm still responsible for IT. Anyhow, so in this area of responsibility, I need to make sure that we have the foundations, that we're not just building the shiny use cases or the POCs, but obviously the infrastructure and the needs to be there. So we're talking really the foundations, building integration between IT systems, standardizing processes, so you have fewer IT systems. Our tech or system environment is really, really, really complex and heterogeneous, so I'm trying to reduce that complexity. And integration, building integration, and then the connection to our data infrastructure to give a chance for scaling AI.
Cool, thank you. So I learned academics plus excitement. Maybe that's a combination to get AI out there. What was your first connection with AI? How did you start? What?
Also academics, sorry.
Also academics.
Yeah, no news here. No, so I studied law and then I did a master's as well in New York, and I wanted to go into finance. And I researched on algorithmic trading. I wrote my master's thesis on algorithmic trading, and especially I looked into Goldman Sachs algorithms and how they move markets. It's very interesting, you know, because they have a high volume trades, and so that was my first connection. And then I went founded my own company, and then I was a VC, and we also heavily invested into deep tech. So my focus was deep tech. Then I was a CFO at a company where we also did deep tech. And then I founded my own again, and now I'm here. I'm there at Deloitte, and we're doing end-to-end AI transformations for companies.
Okay, so that's your daily work with AI at the moment, yeah? So
Quick
why did I ask this? Because I wanted to figure out how we can excite more people about AI that are not in our bubble. So maybe we have to subtract academia, because not everyone is going into academia. So excitement is maybe that was left that excited you to start with AI. How do we get the excitement out of our bubble and to excite more people about the positive impacts of AI? What are your thoughts, Annika?
I'm not even sure if everyone must be excited about AI, because AI is not, you know, I mean, it can be a hobby, especially when you develop AI, like from our developer perspective. Of course, it may be helpful to be excited about it, but especially if it comes to application and to users, very often, especially for B2B tools, people don't even realize that there's AI inside the tools, especially when it comes to predictive systems. I think what happened in the past 1 or 2 years is that we realized a hype on Gen AI a lot, which is of course only a part of artificial intelligence. And I sometimes feel that people don't need to be specifically excited. Sometimes they don't even have to have any competences to use AI systems, and that's something that many people don't know. Many companies are developing AI concepts in order to implement specific steps after steps, and not usually, but in many cases, especially in B2B applications, that's just not possible. So, of course, excitement is great, but I think it's not necessary in order to apply AI or to just make the best productivity out of what we can get. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Kenza?
I think the focus maybe is on the value that AI creates at the end. So even in my case, I studied electronics because I loved mathematics. So I didn't think of AI at that point, but having that example that you can use neural networks to diagnose cancer, this is what got me motivated for the topic. So I majored in it. And I think for the broader public, when they see the benefits in using something, they would just use it regardless of the technology behind. Yeah. Obviously, we don't want people just to use the systems. We want them as well to design and co-create the systems, because this technology is there for everybody to use, and we should democratize it and just not keep it for a small share of the population. So we do want everybody to learn something about the technology and to be able to participate in a way, not just as consumers, but I would say as well-informed and responsible consumers. And with well-informed and responsible, I mean also giving feedback and trying to shape how those products are being built, and especially talking about the morals and values in Europe.
What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think the application layer is sort of the interesting thing. If you look into medicine, just like you said, we see that the current models have a much higher, how do you say, like they hit sort of the diagnosis at a much better rate. So if a doctor comes out of med school, they usually diagnose with a precision of 60%. So they see a cancer case, and 60% manage to diagnose it correctly. Then when they progress along their sort of experience scale, 87% of all chief doctors, of all our super experienced doctors, diagnose the cancer, right? But if you look into the models, like into Gemini or like even ChatGPT is more accurate, then it's over 90%. And the current models, like a few weeks ago, a new cancer model was released. They had a 99.26% accuracy. So I think that's amazing, right? Because like if you have cancer, that little delta, those little 7%, they mean a lot to you. That could be a life or death sentence. So I think once the general population understands that, how AI can kind of save your life, how AI can make the world more efficient, better, AI will help us save resources, AI will help us teach our kids. I mean, my kids use Gen AI on a daily basis. They've exchanged Google for ChatGPT, which is from a resource perspective outrageous, because every time you generate a picture, it's like 5 liters of water, basically, or 4, depends what you do. So I think at the moment we see a huge like delta opening up, because we see on the one side we see the population that is very AI sort of fluent, like it's very digitized, and it makes us all much better. It makes us more efficient. We write our emails faster. We take faster decisions. Everything gets better and faster. But then we see, like you said, like the general population, the people who don't use AI, they sort of get left behind. And I think it's a huge problem. We see that in like globally, people who will not be able to differentiate deepfakes from real images, but us, who have a trained eye or know that can't be right, we will know. But this whole thing, we have to sort of take everyone with us and make sure not to leave them behind. And I think with that's always through education and transparency. So I think education in terms of AI is the most important thing. And it starts in every company. You have like AI missionaries, evangelists, whatever you call them. And they sort of teach use case by use case, like a little string of pearls, and teach people what to do to get them comfortable using it. And that's the other thing. In companies, actually 85% of all project to pilot to product fail, because the organization cannot handle it. And people don't adapt to it. And it's simply because they're not comfortable using it. So I think it's just like, we have to all reach out and make sure people understand. And it's mostly the older generation, because the kids they're already on board, They see the use of it, they see the beauty of it, and you don't have to worry about them.
Well, I don't agree. We still have to worry.
We have to worry about not the use.
I agree in the usability. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And it's really so that they learn how to use the things quickly. That's not the problem. We should still worry, because they just believe everything they see. There is no
critical thinking.
There's no critical thinking, and they just take everything for granted and use it. So still, I would say this digital competence is something that young and old need. Different perspectives, but...
yeah, that's interesting, because Annika, you said we don't need excitement, but we need probably literacy, or how to use this tool, or competencies, what you just said. And other question, do you agree that we leave a majority of society behind because they are not AI fluent?
Yes, of course. I mean, I just rely on numbers. I think we have an adoption rate in Germany of around 6 to 7% across most industries. If it comes to the US, I think we are already reaching up to 60%. In China, even a little bit more, a little bit less, about the same. So of course,
AI usage.
AI adoption means, of course, the adoption in a specific industry. So of course, we are way behind, and I don't want to disagree here, but what I think is very often a misconception is that, especially when it comes to companies and B2B applications, people assume that there are specific competences necessary or specific concepts in order to apply AI tools. And that may be the case for a specific proportion of the tools. But the truth is there are many tools that can just be used. And I think that's an opinion that is said very rarely and that is not very popular, because of course people tend to support the fact that first of all we need to develop a strategy, and then we need to do that, and so on and so forth. And I think the most important thing that harms innovation most is at the moment that we don't apply it quick enough. And therefore, I'm just in favor of applying as soon as possible. And sometimes that very well works without any education before. And that's just what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I totally agree with what was said. Yeah.
Is it a problem of applying AI? Or is it a problem about culture and people, what we already discussed, what you said? Most of the...
I think it's culture and people. I mean, the tech is there.
Yeah.
And it's been there for decades, and now it's becoming actually very usable because we have the application layer on top, we have a good UX UI on top. So it's present, but we really, I mean, we have to work on sort of like, if you look into organizations, we have to look like into change. And if you look at societies, we have to have like do sort of change management in a way, you know, to get everybody on board. But at the same time, I mean, AI will be woven into every bit of our society, into every process, into every software, into every hardware. Like even my vacuum, you know, will eventually, hopefully, be able to distinguish the cat from the chair. So, and have like, you know, enough mental power. So I think, you know, it's just a matter of time. I personally don't believe that, you know, like it's going to be tragic. I think we just need to work on it, you know.
How to work on it? I mean, not only talking about education, but do you have examples how you get people on board when you do processes in your companies? So something that we can apply when we go home. What is it that persuades people to use AI to find values, to do this end-to-end digitalization, to go into the KMU and then use AI? How do you persuade them? What is the trick?
I think in the workplace, what is really helpful is when you make these people part of the things you build. And I mean, obviously, if you have thousands of employees, you can't include all of them. That's for sure. But in my experience, and we did this in different projects in the past, even when developing solutions for in the shop floor or I don't know, the call centers, that was a very specific example. We had workers from the call center joining the tech team from the beginning in this design phase. First of all, because they are the subject matter experts. So if we are improving their job, we need them on the table to understand their job first, understand the processes, and then understand how to improve. And if you include them in this design process of the solution, once it's built, they're really excited to use it because it's like their baby. And not only they use it, but they talk about it with their peers. They're like, hey, see this automation piece, I build it with the IT, and it's my baby, and so they encourage the others to use it. So involving the end users in the design and development process of the solutions is really helpful in the adoption. And I mean, obviously offering trainings, collaboration, co-creation in companies helps a lot. You need to do it in a structured way.
So it's all about doing it, experiencing it. So as you experienced it when you started in academia and then started with it, would you agree?
From my personal experience, no, I think not actually.
That's good. Something different is always good.
Interesting.
But I think I'm also not that great at applying AI. I think I could be way better than I am. Yeah. I think I'm pretty good at developing AI, but I guess there are many people here that are way better at applying AI tools than I am. So I got a little bit excited about AI, which was rather through research and not through application tools.
Yeah. What I actually meant is the question, if we want to take the majority of society, whether they are in companies or in education, with us and also to persuade them of the positive impacts of AI, do people have to experience the positive impacts of AI?
Yes, I think
That's what you said, Kenza. Yeah.
I mean, of course, if we take the entire society as a whole, I think definitely, because AI is not just for AI. I think there should be a reason behind models. And I think, especially if it comes to companies, there must be an economic value from applying a specific tool. If the tool does not meet specific KPIs, then it's just not worth it. And I think that's also what we need to accept, that there needs to be an additional economic value or an additional societal value. And I think as soon as people are realizing that for instance, let's take the example let's take our example of a recruiting, that you have better time to hires, better retention rates, or anything like this, then it may make sense to apply AI in this field or to further develop, or of course you need some time to get there. But I think AI is not something that is just there because it's AI. It must have an economic value. Yeah. And I think that again motivates people. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's also you have to differentiate a little bit what AI is. Like if we talk about models, like we're helping you, aiding you in writing an email. So of course, I think the value prop is right there. But we have AI in everything, in autonomous driving. We have it in medicine, and every big chemical company right now is using AI and finding new materials. The R&D process is shortened by years, and if not decades, to find new molecule structures, to find new protein structures. So the whole pharmaceutical industry will be disrupted. I think this, to me personally, this whole use case of personal AI adoption is boring, in my opinion. Because we're all I have my ChatGPT on the fast button on the iPhone, on the right button. So instead of muting it and unmuting it, I have ChatGPT and ask it, whatever, anything. So that's my AI adoption. I have 4 other models on my phone I use for various use cases, whatever. That's, in my opinion, super not interesting. It's just text and image maybe. But what's interesting is if they're able to find a vaccine against cancer, 10 times faster, 10 years faster, because they can and cheaper, because they can find molecule structures and then be able to roll it out to the entire globe, because there are systems predicting certain things, testing, or for instance, the latest models are now able to decipher animal language. So they found out that pigs have an entire grunting system for their friends, for other, for foreign pigs. And it's once we understand all that, what are the consequences for society? If we understand what a cow is saying before it gets slaughtered, is that going to change our way we look at animals, at livestock, at feed, at anything really? So I think there's so many more interesting use cases. For instance, in the ocean, when you have coral and coral reefs, the fish make a different bloop than when it's healthy versus when it's unhealthy. So Google DeepMind, the Google researchers, went down and recorded that. And as a training set, they had actually bird voices, like bird chirping, that was supposedly similar. So they're now checking with little microphones down at the bottom of the ocean if by listening to the fish, if the corals are healthy. And I think there's so many, just in science, there's so many super exciting use cases. Obviously, on the company side, you can create now marketing material on, at a click, basically. You can create videos, you can create images, you can automate, but that's all boring, I think.
I think, boring, maybe not very politically correct.
I'm sorry.
But let's reframe it. The value
Yes.
creation is at the bottom. So
Yes.
if we think of a triangle, at the top we have the tools.
Yes.
Right, and then you go AI systems, APIs, and then where the intellectual property is. So the value creation is going deeper in that triangle, but mostly everybody is talking about the top, which is tools. I have ChatGPT, I have Perplexity, I have that, and I do the same. Yes, but there is no value creation in it. So especially if we talk about the industry, we have to look deeper. And in order to have real value, to have real production gains, we need the whole infrastructure. We need the back end. So the front end, the application layer, okay, that's easy, and everything is plug and play today. But what I always discuss very often with startups, and we do work with startups a lot, they bring their solution, it's ready, it's plug and play. And they tell me, hey, it's really easy, plug and play, API network. And say, yes, my problem is I don't have the plug where you can put your solution. I don't have an API. I'm working with a system. My warehouse management system is based on an AS400, IBM, very robust thing. programming language RPG. Raise your hand if you know it. Very old legacy. We have technical debts. The company is 151 years old. So, and this is the hidden champion situation, basically, right? So we do have a lot of homework to do in bringing up that infrastructure to a level where we can use the plug-and-play solutions, and then the value creation starts. We have Copilot, yes, it helps for people to experiment, to try, but it's not really doing any positive impact on productivity. I still believe in having the workforce using these tools, because I say on the long run, if they experiment, they will get new ideas in the future, maybe in 2 years, how to automate many activities, tasks that they do daily. Maybe today we don't see the impact on productivity, but I'm convinced we will see it in 2 years. So this is why I think still the investment is worth it.
And entire Germany is like this, right? So entire Germany has their data in the basement in folders. I mean, entire Germany has legacy software. The fund I used to work for, we had software, CRM software that was 22 years old. And certain people in the company worked on, I want to say it was Word 97 or so, and that's just 5 years ago. So, I mean, and that's like serious legacy software. Like, there's no,
It's hard to believe.
It's hard to, I mean, there was just no update forced. When you work in big corporates, they all of a sudden in the call, they force an update on you and your laptop goes blank. Happens to me all the time. And, but there, it doesn't, like in this big, and that's how, like, there's a lot of, I would say, opportunity in Germany. You can say it negatively, there's legacy, there's like tech debt, there's legacy software, legacy this and that. However, you can also say like the transformation that can happen is really, the potential is huge. And also what's interesting is that they can, I've talked to a lot of healthcare systems, and they're lots, like in the south of Germany, they're really not digitized. Like really papers and like writing manual reports and such. And the interesting thing is, they can almost skip the entire digitization and go straight into AI. Yeah. It's like, because all that, like the middle stuff in the past 10 years, they didn't have a CDO who tried to like, vertically instead of horizontally, vertically try to push sort of software and IT and new systems and maybe Copilot, but not even that. But now they can sort of like try to have a horizontal approach where they like section by section, business unit by business unit, try to modernize it, bring AI into every process, and then really automate. And I think so. I think Germany can be on a good way if we do our homework at the end.
I'm still trying to figure out what is, using your word, the API is between our AI bubble and the normal population.
The general public. Yeah.
And these are the people in your companies that probably that suddenly don't make the transformation work or stuff. What could the API for this be?
I mean, my answer was very analog, writing books.
Why is this?
Why, yeah, and actually it's a question that I also asked myself back then. When did I write the first book? 2020. I was working at Deutsche Telekom back then, and we had this enablement sessions internally. We did a roadshow where we went to different locations and explained what is AI. I called those workshops AI for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So just explaining very easily how the technology works, and then sharing information on use cases that we were applying in different business areas. And then I thought, yeah, and the reaction I had, you could really see on people's faces when they got into the workshop, they were afraid because, oh, AI, what's all of this about? And then after the workshop, like 1 hour later, they're, oh, relieved. And only because I explained it's just mathematics, and some of this mathematics you even had in your studies, a regression. I mean, everybody heard something about linear regression. So they were relieved after understanding there is no magical thing about it. It's just applied mathematics. And then I thought, okay, if this happened within an hour, let's say, I need to share this capability with everybody. So this is what motivated me to write books for the general public. They're not science books, but very, very easily explained. And that was the way I tried to push that API, let's say, the connection that I found. And of course, there are different initiatives. different foundations belonging to big corporates also investing in education. So actually there's enough offering out there and also for free. One of the initiatives that I really like is Elements of AI. It's an online course you can do. It's for free. That was developed by the University of Helsinki, and they translated it in most European languages. So the offering is there. Now is how to get the people to use it.
But I very much liked what you just said, that you explained people that it's in the end just statistics, and that's basically it, so people can somehow connect. But I also think that sometimes it may make sense also to talk about the weaknesses of AI, and also to show how much AI is not greater than our minds are, that it is actually artificial intelligence and not human intelligence, so that it's actually copying our code. Let's take Gen AI is just copying our code, how we code our human intelligence. And then if you compare it, you very quickly see that in terms of performance, it's not so great, especially if you compare, let's say, the output of Gen AI with a very excellent philosopher like Sartre or something like that, then you realize it's a way to go for AI. And then there are also funny examples. I was just thinking about that. I think it's called Incident Database or something like that. I don't know if you know this website where you can see AI mishaps. You see a vacuum cleaner going into a river or something like that, and then you just realize it's not so great. It's a lot of development work putting into that, and it will be a way to go. So I sometimes feel that if you see this, then you reduce a little bit the fear that many people still have from, general artificial intelligence or even super intelligence and all those scenarios that are drawn, which are still so far away.
And when you see exactly that happening, or you could see exactly that happening with Klarna, because Klarna announced, I would say, was it 6 months ago, that they would get rid of 700 call center agents and replace them with AI agents. And it was part of their equity story because they were planning an IPO. And everybody was like, in the industry, everybody was super excited about it. They made various headlines. It was a good press coverage. And I believe it was yesterday or so, they rescinded that. And they said like, well, we might need to rehire a few people. And it shows like really the AI journey or the problem everybody's in, because we're not quite there yet. Like you said, we are like actually far away. In the call center space, you will always need like a certain 20% or so to cover cases that have not been done before. And then you will have like 80% of the standard use cases, like where is my account? Like, can you give me a number? How long can I call? Whatever, all the basics. But the 20% is like you will always have to have humans. That's number one. Number two, and that's just my assumption, is that it's too expensive for Klarna to actually deploy their own models and record their own voices. Because otherwise you have an API call to 11 Labs or whoever voice provider you use, and you have synthetic voices, you need to pay royalty fees. So every API, every time somebody calls the AI call center, you have on the other side, a little dollar going cha-ching, because that's the API call to 11 Labs. And in order to prevent that from happening, all the big companies like Lufthansa, Deutsche Bank, everyone, they start to record their own voices, create their own synthetic voices, but that's very expensive. To train your own models, that's expensive. It needs to be open source, this and that. So Klarna just now took it back. And I think it's symptomatic for where we are in the adoption process. It's not going to be a linear situation. It's going to be like zigzagging. We're going to be zigzagging our way along the adoption line. I think eventually it would level out a little bit, But I agree with Annika. I think these maximum theories of AGI coming, ASI being around the corner, and they're actually propagated by the ex-CEO of Google, or CTO. They're like creating drama and fear, but I think we're so far away. So I think people can take take your time in adopting and just move along.
Okay, cool. Maybe for the last question, before maybe you have a question, then after that one, just think about it. I want to zoom out again. AI and society. Yeah, we talked about APIs, how to connect, but AI and society. And we all know the doom scenarios you were just talking about. What is your most positive view on AI and society for the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, you already mentioned stuff like reading Chaos Mind and stuff like this. What would that be if you zoom out? How positive, how optimistic are you about AI and society?
I think there are good or positive use cases if they are being used. So obviously healthcare is a very big impact, but also on a communication level. We have tools now that enable people to understand what's happening on television. And you would say everybody understands, but no, not everybody understands. You need to have higher education. So having those simple German translations, and I guess in most languages, translation between languages, courses online. There are also use cases to help children and also migrants to follow the school curriculum at home in their own languages, explaining everything. So there's a lot of AI for social impact use cases, and I think this also helps the participation, the civil participation. Obviously, there are backsides, and we know that, but we're focusing on the good parts in here. Annika.
Maybe, I mean, I'm like a huge optimist on AI, and I think, especially, I talked in the beginning a little bit on the labor market, and I mean, that's a critical issue now for Germany. Yeah? We have actually many intelligent people, but considering that jobs changes and jobs change and that we have skills that are necessary for the future, we just need to realize that we have wrongly allocated people on specific positions. We have people that work less. That's not only because of sickness and all of those cases, but that's probably because people are wrongly allocated. And this is just one example. And with AI tools and AI systems, people are capable of really analyzing all elements that are relevant on doing a good job in the best way possible. So actually, tools could, in this case, let's take the example of the labor market, reallocate the entire German labor market in a new way, which is, of course, a huge opportunity that won't be solved by our company alone, but must be solved but by the entire industry. This is one case, and also, I mean, one other obvious case that pretty much everyone is talking at the moment is probably the defense topic. Yeah? The application of adaptive systems and how much actually this entire topic and the principle of defense industry and defense technology could be changed through good data and through adaptive systems that are working with real-time information. I mean, this is just a huge change in terms of defense situations that we have now in Europe, which is more than critical, I think, at the moment.
That's a very serious
very positive outlook. I think. I mean, what are the greatest problems of humanity at the moment? We have like climate, migration, and resources. So we'll be fighting about, at least we'll be fighting about resources. And I think AI can definitely solve that. So I think AI can really help us find new materials, help us find to be more efficient, help us to sort of like tackle the climate problem, so not the entire south of the globe will be like cooked, So I think more on a more macro level, AI will be magic for us.
Thank you.
I think at the same time, just one addition, we shouldn't forget that we are in the driver's seat, right? At the end, this is just a tool. And it's up to us to use this tool for a good purpose. We shouldn't forget that, because sometimes you have the feeling people just lay back and say, okay, AI is fixing it. Yeah. No. We need to fix it. Yeah.
But maybe to add something here, I have never met any AI developer who does not want to work for a good cause, really. Everyone wants to do something good with it, and that's a nice thing.
Well, that's a nice word for the end of our discussion. Do you have any questions? No, so my very last question would be, AI society, how optimistic are you? 10 is very optimistic, 0 is not optimistic. Would you give a number?
100.
Need KPIs.
100, of course.
100. Kenza?
I'm skeptical about this question because, as I said,
Fair enough.
AI is just a tool.
Okay.
And we need the right people to use the tool for the right purpose. So this is why the question is not really answering AI as a tool is capable of many good things and bad things.
Okay.
But the question is how do we use
people?
it? And people are very creative and surprising sometimes in both ways. So I'm not so sure.
Elisabeth?
Me too. I would say I'm about a 5, and I just really quick. Yesterday I read that the Russians are sort of spamming the internet with false information. No news, but it's now being straightly fed into ChatGPT. So Pravda, I think that's one of the big Russian media houses, has managed that ChatGPT generates wrong answers about Russia in 30% of the cases. And so I would say I'm about 5 because there are too many bad actors, and it also amplifies their skills, you know?
Okay, so we have a 5, we have a, it depends on the people, and we have and we have 100. Thank you very much. Thanks for this panel. Dankeschön. Dankeschön.
Thank you,